Comedy legend Frank Skinner is back on stage with his first stand-up show in 4 years.
I think a man of my age saying my girlfriend is sort of on a level with a man of my age saying my skateboard.
Live in London this June, at the Edinburgh Festival in August, and touring across the country this autumn.
It's what I would call an Elton John joke. It's a little bit funny.
Book tickets now at frankskinnerlive.com.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Alan Cochrane. Text us on 81215. Simple as that. Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Frank on the Radio, or email the show via the Absolute Radio website. There you go.
It was Flying Ant Day this week.
Was it? I missed that. I was away, of course.
Well, Dave Mutton has tweeted us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good friend of Larry Lamb's.
I went to a fancy dress party with him where he went as former England batsman Alan Lamb. Poor Dave Mutton. He's contacted us in good faith.
He has.
Yeah, he has. He says one for Alan.
Still, he's probably hard of hearing.
One for Alan's Friday night trawl.
Oh, yeah.
Flying ant swarms appear on weather map. So they appeared as rain. They appeared on a weather map as light precipitation, apparently. This is another story he's got in touch about. But yeah, the Met Office called them insect clutter. But they recorded them on radar systems as rain. There were so many ants.
Wow. On the subject of weather, can I just jump in here?
Sure.
There are many smartphones available, and I suggest you try every one of them.
Yeah.
But I personally have an iPhone. Yeah, I'm not saying that's good, I'm not saying it's bad. But
you need to re-record that ad. He didn't sound very enthusiastic.
But there's a weather app on it, it's got a cloud on it.
Yeah.
It's the most rubbish.
Is it?
I tell you what it is. It says, I look at the day, planning my outfit.
Yeah.
And it says it's going to rain at 1 o'clock, and I think, I'll be back by then. So then I'm out at 10 o'clock, it's raining. I look at the app, they've changed it to 10 o'clock, rain. So I call it the look out the window app. It really tells you nothing at all. It's constantly
looking
changing.
out the window can sometimes be a preferred method to that.
I find it's a bit quicker. It's just ahead of them looking out the window. Rubbish. Don't even bother checking it out.
Do you ever?
May I recommend AccuWeather, which I have?
Oh, excellent!
Absolutely marvellous, darling.
Is it really?
Well, I
download.
I can't find one.
We had a lot of people, in fact, getting in touch about this flying ants thing.
How did I miss it then?
Well,
You
it's
went
the fact
away.
that there was
I know, but I went to Wales. Do they not do Wales?
No, they've got a very strict border control in the
devolution in the ant world.
the flying ant backstop.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I experienced some.
Did you?
I had a little bit of trouble with them.
Did you?
Awful people.
And the sheep ticks, of course, they wreaked havoc with Dave Mutton.
I did a little bit of cycling a few weeks ago, and I kept getting like little tiny flies in my eyes, in my eyeballs.
Have you considered the cycling goggle?
I think I have, yeah.
And what did you arrive at?
I've just not cycled since that day, but I might again. I'll consider the cycle.
Well,
like Bono, like the sort of yellowy ones.
Yeah, I tell you what.
He has to hide on Flying Ant Day. He'll get sprayed out of all.
Exactly. I wonder if he wakes up and experiences weightlessness. Bono on Flying Ant Day. Calls the Edge saying, "Help me, I'm stuck to the ceiling like that bloke in Mary Poppins, the original Mary Poppins." And the Edge says, "Hold on, I haven't got my hat on yet." "Hi, mate, give us a chance." And Bono says, "I did give you a chance. Let's face it." And Ed said, "Look, yeah, you know what? And I took it. Don't keep on about that. Like, you done me the big favour, Bono." And that same old argument comes up again.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was on the coast, and I wonder if maybe the flying ants don't go to the coast.
Oh, they're not seaside.
Yeah.
Oh,
that
don't
bit.
they like to be beside the seaside?
Don't think they do.
No, they like to be in my...
Inland.
I
Patio.
did not see a single flying ant on Rosilly Beach on the Gower coast. So explain that, you zoologists.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
We've had a text from somebody that I think knows your sort of humour, Frank.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? Filth?
Well, let's see. Let's see if
Hope
they've,
not, as you're about to read it out.
let's see if they've served it up and you're going to knock it in.
Okay.
Hi all. I wondered if Frank knows West Bromwich Albion's new signing, Kenneth Zohore.
I don't. I know who he is.
I think he was hoping for you to say no, but thanks for the tip. I think that's what he was offering you.
Kenneth Zohore,
Yeah.
as in saw.
No, I'm not going to say what as in.
Oh, I got it. I've got
Most
it.
excruciating minute of my life.
Yes.
He was young, he needed the money.
I wouldn't have predicted it, but I thought it would have just, yeah.
Oh, goodness. I've gone hot. I've gone very hot.
He says you're welcome, Tom.
Oh, that's all right.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Tom. That's all right, Frank. That's not him.
Someone, David in Berkhamsted, to be precise, has been asking about reverse charge phone calls. He said his mobile died this week and he sort of started thinking about them, as one does. Can you still make them?
In case, if there's any young people listen to this show, and I've met a few that do.
We've definitely had a few texts from some of the younger ones.
Yeah.
There was a time where if you didn't have any money, let's say you were some kind of student and you were out on a crazy night of carousing and you needed to call your parents for help. You haven't even got the money. This is pre-mobile phone. Yes. I know. And you'd go to a phone box and say, can I send a reverse charges call to this number? And then they would phone your mum and dad and say, will you accept a reverse charges call? Which, in other words, they'll have to pay for.
But you would hear them sometimes.
Yeah.
You could hear them saying, will you accept the charges?
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine if you got knocked back then and you heard your dad saying no.
Well, there must have been people that said, oh, no, don't think so. But can you still do that? Where would you do it?
Well, the phone box, if they still have the phone box.
They still have the phone boxes. You can't have people urinating in the street.
No, you're right.
Can you make a reverse charge call from your mobile? If so, I'm just going to do that all the time.
That's a good
I'll
point.
just ring up and
But
say,
how do you get
Surely.
the operator on your mobile?
I'll just ring up. There
Used
is an
to be-
operator number, 100 it used to be.
yeah.
Was it? I thought it was just 0, but maybe I'm thinking
No,
of
it's
hotels.
100. It's
Yeah, I
100
think
anyway.
that's-
Well, anyway, if anyone
Just phone
knows,
reception from a hotel.
there'll be
haven't you?
someone listening from BT or the like.
Yeah.
And tell us, can you make a reverse charges call in 2019? There you go.
Frank, you look
Is
quite
the
tan.
Latin? I believe the Latin term for flying ant day is up the ante.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Has anyone answered to say whether you get it at the coast? Is that how I
No.
avoided it?
No, we don't
Well, I've been
know.
let down in a big
We're
way.
waiting. There'll be boffins messaging in. Frank, you look quite tanned, may I say? You look
Yes.
lovely.
Well, two things.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I went, as I say, I went to the Gower coast. It's a 4-hour drive, which I did alone. But,
What, in sort of loneliest man in the world style?
yeah, well,
or-
mainly in listening to Big Finish Doctor Who audio CDs style. But we stayed in a cottage, a sort of not obscure, isolated.
yeah,
Remote.
yeah.
Remote.
cottage.
We stayed
Lovely
in a remote
word.
cottage.
Thank you.
And it was called the Old Rectory
Oh, yes.
in Rosilly.
Oh, yeah.
And it was used extensively. It's in one of the... who were those young men with the banjos? Mumbo, Jumbo and Son.
Mumford and Sons.
Mumford and Son.
I was going to say the Skinnerettes.
There's one of their videos has got Luther in it. What's he called?
Idris Elba.
Yes, thanks. I used to drink his ginger beer. It was, may I say, it was very nice. But nowadays, I often get him mixed up with I can't think of it. I want it to sound like if I said aha, then I'd say I don't know my ahas.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so that we start, and also in Miracle Day in Torchwood, the popular Doctor Who spin-off. So
Yeah.
it's a sort of famous Welsh cottage.
Oh, okay.
That's where I stayed, and the sun shone and all
Lovely.
that. But can I tell you,
Yeah.
almost zero phone reception.
Oh,
Brilliant.
that's
Sounds
quite
great.
liberating.
It is liberating for about 20 minutes. And then you do feel like the loneliest man in the world. You can't even look up, like, if Zohore has signed for Albion
yeah.
yet. That kind
Difficult.
of. I mean, come on. Come on with the broadband.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
We've had someone who stayed in your rectory,
Harden.
Ali Taylor. The one on its own, looking over the beach.
That's the one. I said isolated, but on its own is.
Yeah.
Lovely place. I stayed down the coast in an old-fashioned bungalow in a field.
So you haven't
That
stayed?
sounds a bit less
Oh,
lovely.
so she hasn't stayed at that cottage.
No, but
She's seen it.
Yeah, okay. Is that all right for you? No,
Ali
Not sure
Taylor.
it is all right for him.
no. Petty McPettifer.
Yeah.
Did you have Joe's ice cream? Embrace no mod cons. I have no signal in Surrey Hills either.
No, well, it is one of the things, of course, in this country, when you drive out of any kind of major town or city, that moment where it goes, you'll look at your phone and go 4G, 3G, GPSR, E, nothing. And you're about 3 miles out of town.
You must have had a bonanza on messages when you drove back into a signal, though.
Oh,
Wow, good times.
I don't get many messages. I
Good times.
I had 11 emails. I was there for like 4 days. So
Is that all you had?
I don't get messages. When
What about your spam?
what does that
Oh,
mean?
he's not checking that.
What does that mean?
What does that even
Like all
The
the
mean?
internet's
rubbish,
been around
all the-
for a while.
Okay. My spam? Oh, you mean people like who I don't know advertising?
Yes, darling.
I don't
Yes, I suppose that's a way of
I
describing
don't
it.
get much of that. Comicsology every night about 6 o'clock. Send me a thing about, Iron Man bargain sale.
Oh, yeah.
That's about it.
I have a bit of an answer for you from 966.
A bit of an answer
Yes.
would be a great
Let's see
title
how-
for a book of philosophy.
You're right. I'll write it.
Go on.
As the prevailing wind on the Welsh coast is off the sea, flying on ants are blown inland.
Oh,
From Hayden, pest controller to the stars, he claims.
what a result that I went to the East Coast flying ant day. I'm going to do that every flying
Yeah.
ant
Why
day
not?
now. Brilliant.
Reverse charging, this is from 619. Phone boxes had their own numbers, and you could tell your distant girlfriend, I presume they mean in terms of
geographically,
geographically
yeah.
rather than emotionally.
Or both.
Because I find you can't tell her anything.
You could tell your distant girlfriend the number in a letter, so she could make a reverse charge call to the phone box at an allotted time. I'd answer the operator's call as if it was my home number, approve the call and speak for ages, with the GPO paying.
Well, I didn't know that. I have. Have you ever answered a ringing
Phone box?
Phone box.
No, have you?
I passed one once that was ringing, and it nagged at me for weeks that I didn't answer
Didn't
it.
take it.
But I think sometimes what people used to do is they used to play pranks.
Yeah.
They'd look out their
Yeah.
window,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'd ring it and see who answered.
Bit
and
of
then,
fun.
I would have expected to see Beadle popping out.
Yes.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Gone but not forgotten.
No.
Indeed. Yeah. So you can't. Is that the answer? You can't make a reverse charges
Well,
phone call.
876 has sent us an anecdote that also supports it. I recently had to make a reverse charge call from a phone box when the front door blew shut and I was without phone, keys or wallet. I think they mean front door of the house rather
Oh,
than
not
phone
the
box.
phone. It said that would be locked in a phone box.
The only number I knew off by heart Well, this is a millennial, isn't it? They only know one number off by
I don't know
heart.
any. I don't know mine.
Was my dad's mobile, and I was told you cannot reverse charge to a mobile number. I therefore had to sit outside the front door and await help the old-fashioned way.
Yeah?
That's from Nick in Bristol. An anecdote,
Oh, I like
if
it.
you will.
I like it. So that we've established. Don't even try it, you students. I'll give you a little tip, you students. You know that pocket you keep your space in your combat trousers? Just have enough in there for a phone call, and you'll always be all right.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Cleb Butler wants to know, did you get a ticket to the World Cup in the end or watch it at home?
Well,
Can I say I had numerous people getting in touch to ask me that very same question?
yeah, I was in a state of some anxiety last
And this
week.
is World Cup cricket.
World Cup
not,
cricket.
not any other sport.
And I gave a bit of a shout out asking people to get in touch, and which I was embarrassed about because I felt it was a bit tacky, to
was
use my
also-
favourite word at the moment.
Tacky. I've meant you do something tacky.
It was
Yeah.
also a bit needs must because you were looking through your contacts in the daytime. I'll get you a ticket, Frank, and I think you started to feel the panic and the clock run out.
I did.
Yeah, it was bravado.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got I had a nap. I had an afternoon nap
Brilliant.
that Saturday because I had a gig in the evening, and when I woke up, there was a message saying, "Oh, you've been offered a ticket," but I said that I'm supposed to get back to them straight away, and it was like an hour and a half.
No.
And this is from someone I work with, and I thought, see, he didn't say yes. He said, well, I'll ask him. Just in case. I said, you know what? I don't think... Anyway, so I had about 2 hours of super anxiety. And then I had a text that said, you have a ticket confirmed for tomorrow.
Great.
And I tell you what I did. It was quite a nice day on Saturday in London, and the door to the garden was open. I went into the garden and ran round the lawn about 4 times, just to burn off the excitement that had hit me.
Still in only your pyjama top after your nap. Is that what it was?
Can I say
It's a
Al?
private garden. Isn't it?
Yeah,
I
and you
did-
know what? That breeze felt good.
I've got a confession to make. I did try. I left here on Saturday. I looked up the sponsors. I ticked
Wow.
off ones that were suitable.
Oh,
Many
wow.
of them weren't, as I'm afraid they were alcohol-based.
Oh.
And I thought, what if he has to pose with the
Yeah,
product?
no.
Yeah, I'd have done that.
There was
I tell you what, I'd have probably drank it.
There was a tyre company. I thought, what if they make him pose in there like a chimp? It's going to
Oh,
be
yeah.
all
God,
unfortunate.
That would have been great.
I got in touch with a car company in the end.
You never.
Yeah, I did. I got quite far.
Did you? Wow.
Yes. Yeah, so,
Who was it?
Next.
Audi. And they said no because
We've
it's
heard
been
him
saying
slagging us off.
we got the most aggressive. I'll tell you something about Audi.
Oh,
on
yes.
that top. It is my theory that by a country mile, the most aggressive drivers on the road are Audi drivers, and
Yeah.
I experience this on a regular
find
basis.
out which events they sponsor, please, just so I know.
Yeah,
We
and
can't
when I was I got the bus to Lords for the cricket final.
Oh.
And we were just getting close,
Really?
where an Audi pulled in front of the bus with really was nearly an accident, to the point where the driver got out of his, what would you call it, his cubicle?
Yeah.
His wheel cubicle.
Yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
got out of there and
I like that.
he got off the bus, and it was a woman driver, and she had a real verbal go out in an Audi, and then did an illegal right turn, and off she went. And I was on the motorway this week, and I was being severely tailgated by a car behind me. I mean, I was doing about 95. I don't know what the problem was. Not really. Not really. And right up my...
Yeah.
I couldn't even see what type of car it was because the brand was too close to my back bumper. Anyway,
tell me about it.
I pulled out the way, and it was an Audi, and to to be fair to them, they were simultaneously being tailgated by a second Audi. I mean, I just think maybe they should be taken off the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe they should. You have to hand them in. You know, when things like Hot Point send out a message saying there's a problem with
Yes.
our washing machine.
Recall.
Yeah.
I wonder what it
I
is.
think of it Hot Point doing it. I don't want to diss them, but I think of them as the kings of the callback. Or queens, of course.
Perhaps with Audi, it's because they're
2019.
not. They always feel a bit like they're a bit NQM, not quite Mercedes.
Oh.
So maybe
Or
there's
maybe they're
things to prove,
overcompensating.
You know?
Yeah.
This happens.
But
Anyway,
yes.
we won't be getting tickets off them for the quickie.
I'm
But I
getting to-
did try, Frank.
No, I appreciate.
I finally
that,
got
believe
a
me.
reply from the car company on the Monday morning saying, "Oh, sorry, we weren't able to help you. We'd love to have you in the future." You know, I said, "Oh, he managed to get a ticket in the end." And then I thought, well, yeah, of course they would have seen you because you were on the big screen.
I was on the big screen, but more of that. What about my manager? He said, "I'll phone Sky." I thought, sorted. I heard nothing. I said, "Did Sky just say no?" And he replied, "That's exactly what they said." Thanks for that.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Frank, meanwhile, over at Lord's,
Meanwhile, over at Lord's.
you were on the big screen.
Well, I tell you, before I even got to Lord's, the ticket, they said they're just standard tickets. Say there's no food or anything like that.
Sorry for your loss.
But no dress code. No, I was really happy
Why?
because I just wanted to see
got
this
in.
game more than anything.
I understand.
Happy to buy his own lunch if he gets to go
I'll
to the
buy anything.
World Cup cricket
Will
final.
drive self, I
Yes,
find, with
exactly.
Frank.
So I was at the bus stop talking to the flower stall man. There's the flower stall man near the. I tell you what, the
You're
flower.
in a John le Carré novel. What is this? Some
I
kind
think
of
it
spy
sounds
thing?
rather more like EastEnders in the early days.
So that will you mind my stall? Will you just mind my stall,
Yeah.
Pete? Well, I nip to. Well, I have no experience in retail.
Not been trained up.
Now all you need is this leather patch. Yeah, but I don't know what your pricing
Tie it
system
round
is.
your
I
waist.
just have my stall. Yeah, but I mean, I'm just not experienced in. Have the leather patch. You just charge what you think is right, mate. So I was talking to the man from the flower store. He was scrubbing the flower store, and I said, "Well, something happened." I thought he'd been graffitied in the night.
Oh, yeah.
Not him, the store.
stall.
And he said, "Oh, I closed down for the summer." I said, "A flower store attached to a hospital. You close. Do people get less ill? I suppose people get less ill in the summer. There's no ice."
Does he?
I once spoke to a...
No ice.
More
no
hay
ice to
fever,
fall
though.
on, and there's more hay fever. You don't go to the hospital with hay fever,
Some
for
might.
goodness sake.
Bee stings.
I was
Yeah.
talking to a triage
Oh,
once
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
at A&E, and I said, "What's your busiest time?" Obviously, it was a stupid question. It was Friday, Saturday night. And I said, "What's your quietest time?" I thought cleverer. She said, when it rains, we don't get many people." So I thought, people with open wounds thinking, "I'm not going out in this. I'll be fine."
I'd rather die.
So anyway, I'm at the bus stop. I get a text saying, "Are you wearing trainers? You've had a hospitality upgrade. So
Brilliant.
you're now in the food bit."
I like
Right.
how you wearing trainers. I thought that was Kath doing a bit of sexy talk.
Well, I was.
What are
yeah.
you wearing?
I thought it was the bus company saying that they weren't running that day. But you are, mate.
Oh, you
Yeah.
had an upgrade.
So I had to dash home in my trainers.
In your running
Luckily,
shoes.
I was wearing trainers.
Why did they do the
Change.
sudden upgrade?
I don't know. Somebody must have poured out.
A sprinkling of celebrity.
Oh, but I can't tell you how excited I was. And also, Lord's, not only is the World Cup final, but of course, I think the source of one of my greatest ever puns.
Oh.
And that was when we were talking about the fact there's only one person ever hit a straight six over the top of the pavilion at Lord's. It's a massive high building. And he was, this was in, I think, the 1890s or something. And he was called.
I would have seen that then.
Yeah, he was called Albert Trott, and I was talking to, I think, Chris Addison about him, and he said, "Well,
Most 19th century name ever.
Albert Trott." And I was talking to Chris Addison about him, I think it was, or Al Murray. Anyway, this was at a match ages ago, and they said apparently his career floundered after he was such the celebrity of being that person. It really, he couldn't cope with it and the pressure. And I said, was it an Albert Trott around his neck? I was so pleased with myself. I mean,
Absolutely.
I celebrate myself, as I think Walt Whitman once said. Anyway, I've got to give you I mean, I know there's a lot of people listening who don't like cricket, but I'll keep it non-cricket.
Yeah.
But it was, oh man, what an event. I cried. I actually physically tears on the cheeks cried.
You did have to pay for lunch.
Do you know how? I once cried
That
at
was
Lord's.
projection. You cried at Lord's?
I feel really bad saying this to you, but my father was a massive cricket fan. And he made me and my sister go to Lord's once, and we were so bored, we played with the rubbish, and I cried. I was so bored. I'm sorry to tell you that story, Frank.
Played with the rubbish.
We
That's
played
a
with the
lovely
rubbish.
story.
That's how bored we were.
Well, it was a little insight to how the other half lived. I played with rubbish my whole life, if I was lucky.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
I think you'll both enjoy this,
Okay.
and hopefully some people at home, but it's primarily for the benefit of you two.
Now put that back on.
Football. Do you remember when I did that, Frank?
Oh dear, that was. Yeah. I don't know why you were taking your top off, but was it me and Alan, or me and was it before?
It was you and Alan. Alan
Me
was
and
very
Alan
much there.
politely
He'll
looked
never
the
forget.
other way.
We looked away.
Can I tell you why I was taking my top off?
Go
For anyone
on.
who's just tuned in. It was because we'd been given Christmas jumpers. Do you remember that
right,
fashion for
right.
wearing
that makes
ironic
it
Christmas
worse because
jumpers?
it's a sort of sweet
Before
Yule
we
time.
realised that it was a climate emergency.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
When we thought that was cute, and then of course Instagram ruined it.
Yeah.
And so I said,
Why, a Christmas jumper's bad?
well, they've
No,
it's
but,
gone a
It's
bit.
a one-wear item.
It's a bit
isn't it, really?
mainstream
Oh,
and
one way right.
a bit tacky. So I was changing. You and Alan averted your eyes.
Yeah, we literally stood and turned, if I
Yeah.
remember rightly, and then we forgot that they had, in those days we had studio cam. So some people used
For
to
the
watch
webcams, they watched the show.
What did they
Frank
think was
said,
going on?
in the manner of
Bonus.
the final line of, I believe it's Kind Hearts and Coronets, when he says my memoirs, Frank said, the webcam! The webcam!
It did get a bit of soap opera ending, didn't
Yes, it was a
Yeah.
bit. Anyway, I won't
Exactly.
be taking...
No, those days are
my top
gone.
off. Oh, how dare you?
Well, I mean,
But
we don't have
had
a
something-
webcam now, but we have
All
got a
right.
block of flats.
Not since
being
then.
built,
People complain. Football back then has been in touch at Football then with a fabulous super focused feature on Jerry Francis.
Oh yeah.
This would have been from, I guess, late 70s, early 80s. And I think they just thought you would enjoy it because it was the questionnaires the footballer would do. And Jerry Francis has responded, other sports person you most admire? Nobody in particular.
It always used to be Muhammad Ali. That was the
Right.
one when I was a kid. That was.
Is there a favourite meal?
Favourite food and drink? Steak
Yeah.
and a nice glass of wine. He also says
Always.
H2O. H2O.
Okay.
Steak and a nice glass of wine.
Steak was what they always said. Biggest influence on your career, my dad. Mm-hmm. What would you be if you were in a footballer? Electrician.
Favourite singers? Diana Ross, UFO, Meatloaf.
No, in the West Brom programme questionnaire, favourite singer was always Ben E. King.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know how that, but someone at the club must have liked him
Yeah.
and spread it.
Nice.
There you go.
Jerry Francis. There is
Yeah.
a man who got an hairstyle and stuck with it.
I admire those people.
Yeah.
Stephen Gerrard, another one.
Yeah.
Stephen Hendry.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
Willie Thorne.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are people who live in fear of going out one day and not being recognised, I always think. So you have to stick with the look that you had when you were at your peak. Anyway, we're all different.
Yeah.
How
How long have we got? Because there's an email I'd like to share with you, but I don't know if we've got the
I don't
time.
know.
Well,
Time
I've got a bit more cricket stuff.
Tell me more. Tell me more. Did you get very far?
Well, yes, further than I expected. Super over and all that. But I tell you what, slightly nagged at me. You know when I told you about the hospitality upgrade? I'd already made sandwiches, which I had in my knapsack.
Can I just say that's the most
You
adorable?
took a packed lunch with you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Al, I'm actually going to cry.
So I had to take
so
those.
cute.
I had to take those back, and I was going away on
To the
holiday.
back?
No, I took them back home when I changed my trainers because I
right.
couldn't take them to hospitality. Should I take Coles to Newcastle?
What were the sandwiches that you made yourself?
Well, there was cheese and piccalilli and beef and mustard.
Nice.
And the bread, I went out and bought some
Choices.
sliced bread, which I haven't bought for ages. And the sell-by date on the bread was the 19th of September.
Impossible.
Well, that's what I thought. And I thought, hold it.
No, surely it's
No,
year
honestly.
19.
No, it's 19th of
says-
September 2019.
Yeah, it's almost like there might be quite a lot of
What on
preservatives in
earth?
No,
that
it
bread.
said on the bread, it said, it was beautifully square, and I like that in a sliced bread. But it said that our sealing, S-E-A-L-I-N, is so expert that the bread stays fresher longer. September.
A lot of E numbers. but-
Unbelievable.
Did you
Yeah.
did you wrap them up, the sandwiches?
I put them in. Buzz has got 2 little lunch boxes that he takes, and I put them in those.
I'm
I
actually,
separated them out. I don't want the
actually
piccalilli.
crying. I got tears in my eyes. This is the
Oh.
most adorable thing I've ever heard.
Anyway, when I
I'm
got
still
back
made
from,
of stone.
when I got back from the match, I was straight into the beef and mustard.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, as you know, I always have brown bread and with crisps. That's my rider everywhere.
Did you take crisps with? Oh no, well you had to.
I didn't
abandon-
have to. It was all there. Oh, what a day it was.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
So, I tell you what, with the pitch side interview, I was on a small dais
Yeah.
Oh,
and they didn't warn me about this, but it's one of those when you speak and then the echo of what you've said comes back really loudly because, there's
oh.
that. When you see people singing the national anthem and it looks like it's out of sync,
Yes.
you can hear it on the speakers.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a bit like, when you're on the phone and you can hear yourself, that's slightly off-putting.
Oh yeah.
And I'll tell you what I've had just like, when you're on the phone and the other person suddenly goes... Do you get that?
Yes, I often
Speak
get that.
to a lot of people who work in sci-fi, though, don't you?
Oh, that is
Doctor
true.
Who extras and stuff.
That's true. It could have been Nicholas Briggs calling me up, the voice of the Daleks, and many others, can I say.
That sounds and then followed by how did that go, love?
But it was very... And also there was a streaker.
Was there?
There wasn't.
There was a streaker. Get this, a streaker in a leotard.
Oh.
Oh, that's not
mate.
proper. Come
It's
on,
not
make
what
an
it-
effort, streaker.
No, people don't follow their dream anymore.
Do you know I don't like a modest streaker? Come on.
I mean, it is a strange thing to adopt a sort of coy position on
Yes.
streaking.
Either do it or don't.
Yes, we're
Either-
halfway
Yeah.
house.
What I'm going to say is you've either got to go full Erica or not at all.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
the
think that's
irony
right.
of being
Well,
a...
Erica had jeans on.
Well, I know, but that's what made it so
And a
fabulously 70s.
I tell
They
you
were
what,
so
mate.
high-waisted, and I believe they were flares.
I'll
as
tell you
well.
what made it more fabulously... No, I think they were tucked into pixie boots. I'll tell you what made... This is Erica Rowe, the rugby streaker. What
Yeah.
made it most 70s is she had one of those cigarettes that was broken at a 90-degree angle. She'd never seen that. Gone, and never call me mother.
When a fully naked streaker comes on at the cricket, do people mutter, some people have got no boundaries?
Yeah, very funny.
Oh, come on.
Very fine.
I was saying just now, off air, we do sometimes chat amongst ourselves off air
It would be weird if we
when
did.
we're not sulking.
when we're not sulking. And Frank was. I continued to tell Frank that him making himself a packed lunch might have been one of the most moving and sort of poignant moments I've ever. I don't know.
Yeah, but
Sure.
you then said,
I then said
Yeah.
something which is apparently you two look slightly
found it very
astonished.
funny.
Well, what did I say?
I
Al?
shouldn't have been astonished, but it was funny.
Emily confessed that she's never made herself a packed lunch ever.
Ever. Never, ever made herself a packed
Never.
lunch
Why
in
would
the history
I?
of the world.
I'd rather not eat than have to do that.
Well, that's generally the option.
I mean, how
there's
desperate
people
are
with
you for
there's
food?
people with real jobs shouting at their radio now. I think
I know.
some bloke who's a roofer.
Yeah, Texas. I used to, well, when I worked in a factory, I took sandwiches. Actually, my mum made them.
There you go.
Yeah, but I've made many. I mean, for cricket, it was what
Can
I always
say,
did.
I'm not saying this is that I'm so great. I realise
No,
it's
no.
a failing
We
on my
know,
yeah.
part. But, I mean, if anyone wants to teach me how to make a packed lunch, and obviously I forgot to have children, that's the other thing. So
But you
I've
have
had
played
no
with the
experience.
rubbish at Lord's.
I did play.
We're not suggesting you haven't lived.
No, not at all. There's just this very one criteria that you haven't lived.
Anyway, can I sum up saying it was the best cricket, the most exciting cricket match I've ever been to.
Right down to the end, wasn't it?
We lost about 5 times and then we won, if you know what I mean.
Did we
Amazing.
definitely win? Can I ask you
Yes.
that? Because people.
Yes, don't ever ask me that again.
Okay, I don't understand it.
We definitely
And I
won.
read some funny things I didn't like.
And at the end, as I was turning to leave, tears, the sun, the light went golden. You know that time of the night when the light goes golden? It felt like it was really glorious World Cup. And then the man in front who had sat in front of me the whole thing turned round and said, everyone was hugging each other. I hugged a lot of strangers. I mean, in
Did you?
2019, it's a risk.
Wow.
There'll be comeback. But anyway, he turned around and said, you interviewed me once on your TV show. And I
Did he?
thought, oh, well, I used to have a lot of, eccentric guests and stuff like that.
I remember it.
Anyway, he said, I was in McFly. I said, oh, yeah. And then it all came Harry Judd, a big cricket fan. So it was, I'd tell you, one of the most joyous experiences of my life. It was
Is this a shout
really-
out to Harry Judd?
no, I don't mean that bit. That was lovely. But, that moment when Joss Butler took the bails off. Come on! OK, I won't mention cricket anymore. Now get out. That isn't the end of the show.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
OK.
Just wanted to bring to your attention an email that we'd received during the week. We've been talking recently about Mr. Bean, and it's
Monsieur Legume.
yes, it's on that topic. Hi guys, in a few recent chapters of the show, excellent.
Yeah, good.
This correspondent has already got the lingo. Frank has brought up Mr. Bean and his unusual way of speaking. I
Well,
moved.
didn't someone also...
You say brought
Wasn't
up.
there
I
a-
think heavily
did
satirised.
someone ask about what colour his tie was? And
Yes.
We've had a few Mr. Bean enquiries.
Yes, the thin
Because
red
that's the
tie.
kind of show we
And
are.
we are. And also, he lasts forever, Mr. Bean.
Yeah.
There's no topicality.
I think we discussed how he always wore that sort of drip dry shirt and the red tie.
Yeah, exactly. But the Bean brand is
Yes.
eternal.
Indeed. I moved from England to, this isn't me, this is the correspondent of the
Okay.
show. I moved from England to Germany 3 years ago. I mean, if it had been me,
I'd
it
have
would have
thought, I'd have been questioning
Where's Alan on
travel,
Saturday
what the
mornings?
travel
Yeah.
expenses were.
been. I moved from England to Germany
And
3
also the
years
fact you've
ago.
only just brought it up.
Yeah, it would be weird, wouldn't
That
it?
would be very cool, international man of mystery. So, I'll tell you, I'm living in Hamburg
Been
now.
there for 3 years. What? Anyway.
I was pleasantly surprised to recently discover that Mr. Bean is also quite popular here.
Doesn't
However,
surprise me.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
no, it's humour.
Hair. What's German for bean?
Das ist verboten.
Hair bean. Don't like the sound of hair bean.
Any Germans listening? Hiya. And also, what is the German for bean?
However, I was talking with a German fan of the show. I think they mean Mr. Bean, and he casually mentioned something about Mr. Bean being an alien. He then reminded me that the opening credits depict Mr. Bean dropping to Earth in a beam of light, and that this explains all of his odd behaviour, unfamiliarity with ordinary things, and inability to properly communicate. I am 30 years old and had to move to Germany to learn this. Is it true? Long-time listener, Chris.
I remember Unity Mitford saying that to me once.
Do you?
Yeah. You know what? It's a brilliant point.
It is.
It's an absolutely astonishing point. At the beginning of Mr. Bean, there's a Mr. Beam.
Yeah.
I call it, because a light.
No, you don't.
No, I don't. A beam of light. I will from now on.
Yeah.
But imagine
Absolutely live.
if I did that though in conversation, I'd say, of course, he was very good in Mr. Beam, and I'd say, no, Bean, and I'd say, no, I always call him Mr. Beam because, and then tell me. So
I'm
there's a
having
beam
that.
of light comes down,
Yeah.
and Mr. Bean drops from the sky.
Yeah.
Sorry, who has actually sat through the credits?
Everyone.
I haven't.
Titles.
You know, I never made a packed lunch.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I've ever watched
No,
Mr.
this is
Bean.
the titles. It's at the beginning. Oh, you've never seen Mr.
Yeah.
Bean.
No, I have. I've seen bits of it on shows.
Seen
with
Bean?
me. Yeah.
Seen Bean. He was good in Game of Thrones.
I've caught a few beans here
Yeah.
and there. Mm-hmm. Carry on.
Yeah, we had it. That was. We just had a text in from someone's dog.
Anyway, the
so
beam
he
of
drops
light.
to the floor. But I
dear.
was thinking, there's also a possibility that he's some sort of heavenly being.
Oh, you think of this as
Mr. Being, I call it.
celestial?
Well,
first name.
because he drops down this beam of light, and then you get like choral music.
Ah, yeah.
Oh, then you get.
But he has trouble communicating.
There's a
doesn't he?
message though in those opening titles.
I think it's a metaphor for perhaps Mr. Bean feeling slightly other
Right.
and to have issues expressing his feelings.
But I don't think Mr. Bean
got that.
does
Does that mean I'm
feel
really?
other. I think that's the joy of Mr. Bean, is he's
Okay.
other, but he hasn't really noticed.
Oh, okay.
He's supremely,
like you.
He's supremely confident, Mr. Yeah, exactly.
You're quite like Mr. Bean, Frank.
He's supreme. I remember I was in Africa, in Burkina Faso, with Comic Relief.
Francis?
Comic Relief. And we went to a school in Burkina Faso, and this little, I don't know what the Burkina Faso, I don't know how you say the Burkina Fasoan child.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
This child said, pointed at me and said, Mr. Bean. Which obviously I just slapped him straight across the face. It's a bit of an incident, but we covered it up.
Oh, good.
No, but I think it shows in Africa, there in West Africa, Mr. Bean was, known.
Right. Wow.
But
Wow.
I'm thinking now, is he from
Also
heaven
found-
or is he from Alpha Centauri?
Oh.
I'm just giving an example. And of course, there was an American athlete called Bean, Alan
Oh,
Bean.
was there?
Yeah. Not athlete, astronaut. I knew it was beginning with A. Yes.
Oh, that's
If
timely.
anyone has any theories on the Bean gene,
Yeah.
give us a.
Or Mr. Bean himself perhaps would like to...
Yeah, I don't think he listens to this, does he? You'll be in one of his
Too
fast
busy being an
car.
alien.
He'll be in
Oh,
his
all right.
fast car, and the police will pull him over, and he'll go, oh.
Frank Skinner,
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
We've had a message in from A. Cochrane. We used to use a wooden lollipop stick to clock up credits in the old payphones. Naughty but financially beneficial.
To clock up credits.
In the old payphones.
Oh,
Yeah.
press it in.
Naughty but financially
So you know
beneficial. That wasn't really from A. Cochrane.
It's
That
not
was
really
me
from
being
me,
evil.
but I like it.
It's from Donna.
Okay.
So you know the coin used to sort of move a little lever. That was
Yeah.
how
Oh,
it would.
surprises
yeah,
me
So
you
if
know
you
about
put
this.
in the stick, it would sort of press the lever, and therefore
There was the thing, we
it's
had-
fraud, but
We had a piece of a bit of broken china, which we used to
China
play.
in your hand.
You used to play. It was literally. We'd play table football. You know, when you pull out the handle, if
Oh,
you
yeah.
put something in that keeps it out, you can play football all night, and the balls keep just dropping through.
Lovely. Sam Potter from Essex has been in touch.
Can I say, before you say this, absolute is anti-crime.
Is it?
Yeah. apparently.
My 3-year-old daughter is also a fan of Mr. Bean. Oh, I think
Universe.
I'm throwing shade at you, Frank.
Universe.
Both the original series and the new animated
Yeah,
series.
my son loves the
In
anime.
regards to the alien landing, there was actually an episode of the animated series not long ago where Mr. Bean was abducted by aliens, and the aliens were all Mr. Beans.
No way.
He was then...
Oh, and it is
They
written.
put a twist on it. It's so clever. He was then dropped back to Earth, as on the Spotlight, as in the original series, to be back with the female character, his girlfriend, ? Has he got a... I don't like
There
Bean
is-
having a girlfriend.
No, there is a female that he goes to the cinema with in one of the funniest episodes for mine.
No, in the films,
He
in,
must be
in,
a
in
bad
Mr. Bean on holiday, he actually he gets the girl
I don't want to know.
at the end.
I think that would be...
Can I-
It's like Hollyoaks late, isn't it?
Now you mention,
It's like Big Bird having a girlfriend. Some, or the Fonz. Some people have to remain pure for the
no,
children.
I think that's
Okay.
true. The Pope, Big Bird, the Fonz,
And Mr. Bean.
Doctor Who.
Mr. Bean, well, you can't
That's
put.
just
You
done.
can leave your hat
We've just
on
done
and
the
take
big
his
five
clothes off.
Doctor Who's been married a few times. It was complicated.
Has he?
Yeah.
Did he have a girlfriend, Doctor Who?
Well, he married a character called River Song, and he also married, I think, Elizabeth I.
Did he?
And he did have a granddaughter in the early days as well.
Did he?
Okay.
And I think he kissed Marilyn Monroe. Anyway,
You can't
anyway,
accuse it.
Scandal.
You can't accuse him of having a type, though, Al.
No.
no, that's true. That is true.
Elizabeth I and Marilyn Monroe.
Can I tell you that in the animated series of Hairbone, I believe we've now found out it's called in Germany, in the animated series, full stop, the opening sequence is the beam of light, and it pans out, and it's Mr. Bean holding a torch, and he drops his teddy bear into the beam of light. So he parodies the sort of real person.
Yeah, just a tip there. Don't date a man who carries a teddy bear around with him in his 40s. Okay?
Well, John Betchman.
Frank Skinner. Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
6:04. Curious. I am very similar to Mr. Bean, especially the way I drive. So I'm speculating that he may originally have come from Aldershot.
Oh.
That's Ali from Stepney. That's quite a leap, but
Yeah, and also is that how one arrives from Aldershot by Skybeam?
Beam of light, yeah. Actually, as the sometime motoring correspondent on this show, I've got
I
a
know
little.
sometime about it.
I've got an anecdote if you're interested.
Let me get me. Hold on.
As you know, I've
Put
been.
the fire on, Frank.
Let's just loosen these shoelaces.
As you may be aware, actually, this might be part anecdote, part announcement. I'm doing the Edinburgh Festival, as indeed are you, Frank. But you've been doing your show for a while, right? So it's up and running, and it's all. Whereas mine is a new show that I'm previewing.
Oh, is
For the
it?
people that don't know, you have to drive around the country and tell your new jokes to audiences that know.
But
they
you
might not all work.
both will be doing the show in Edinburgh.
Yeah,
So,
when
okay.
it'll be ready.
But he's been... Okay.
Yeah. So, I had a bit of an incident last week. Not the week that's just gone, the one before it.
Okay.
I prepped, didn't do anything that day. I thought I'm going to do my preview in Leeds, so I'll work on the show a bit. I'll get the order of the jokes all sorted out. I said to my wife, right, I'm off to Leeds now. It's a 9:30 preview. Set off about, I can't remember, 6:30, 7, something like that. I get to Leeds, I park up. Annoyingly, I pay £2 for the parking because it turns out that particular place is
the worst possible start.
yeah. They
I don't
charge
think I've
until
ever said
10
annoyingly I
p.m.
paid £2. I'd
10
say
p.m.
result.
they charge to on that bit. Anyway, I expected it to be free after 6 p.m. Anyway, walked into the venue. I go up to the second floor because I've said to them, I'm here to do the preview at 9:30. I'm just going to get a coffee before I go on. I walk in, and then the guy who runs the venue comes in and says, we've already got all the comedians. I thought you were on tomorrow.
Oh, shut up.
Oh.
And I said to the person pouring my coffee, "Can I have that in a takeaway cup, please?" And
You didn't even question it.
she put it in a takeaway cup. And then I turned to him and went, "Are you absolutely sure?" And he said, "Yeah, I've got you down for tomorrow." Now, thankfully, I didn't have a gig in the diary for the next night, but I did just get in the car and go home.
Oh.
So I just
Say,
basically,
Al,
I did
you
all the
dealt
prep.
with that like it happened in a film.
Yeah.
Like you came out with the one-liner. You said, "Hey, I better get that to go."
Yeah.
I mean, that's extraordinary.
And
Yeah.
you didn't consider maybe getting a hotel room in Leeds for the night, so you'd be there.
Stayed
It's
there.
a bit
You could have
Easy.
walked around Leeds on the Sunday, got some local references.
No,
I would have done
I
that,
grew up
Frank.
near there.
Okay.
And also, it's only like 35 miles from Manchester or something. Oh, somebody's going to correct me now saying it's 50.
I would have. What would you have done? Is a game I love to play. I would have absolutely done what Frank Skinner just said.
What, stayed over?
Yes, I would have booked a hotel. Thought lovely. I have a little mini break to myself. Stroll
It's a
along.
45-minute drive. And I've
So
got
I
a
suppose
home.
it's like me going to Colindale or something and booking a hotel.
I don't mean to brag, but I've got a Victorian terrace with a loft conversion and a cellar.
What?
Now you want me to be in an ibis just because I made a clerical error?
We never
We
said,
said
it.
ibis.
There's some lovely. You could have done 42 the calls. Does that
Oh,
still
nice.
exist?
Sounds a bit pricey for a man who's got a mortgage on a Victorian terrace.
This
Wow.
is a man
You
who's
never
main-
mentioned the mortgage. You owned it a second ago.
This don't listen to
hairs.
Nicholas Van Hoogstraten.
Yeah.
This is the man whose main priority when his gig was cancelled was, can I take that coffee to go?
Yeah. You see, I'm surprised you didn't cancel the coffee. Or make that bloke pay.
Well, actually, the
Was
bloke,
it definitely your mistake or their mistake?
to be honest, it's a bit of a pain point there because I'm an old school guy. I have a pen and paper diary, and that gig was written on the Wednesday in my wife's handwriting. Do with that what you will, guys. She claims that I said, "Can you write it in on that Wednesday?" Sometimes when I'm away and a gig comes in, I'll ask her to put it in. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I say it's 2019? I don't think we should discuss this any further.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Frank, can we talk about the moon landings?
Okay, then.
Oh,
You
we're
start.
Not going to deal with this character complaining about you and I.
Oh, yeah. Oh, go on now.
Dominating the show.
You do it.
Peter has emailed in.
I don't
Frank.
want negative waves.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll just
That's what I
very
said to my
quickly deal with it.
hairdresser.
We'll very quickly deal with Peter's complaint. Correct me if I'm right. Is this the Frank Skinner show? As the poor man never seems to get a word in with the other two keep chatting. Good show, Frank, when you get the chance to speak. Now,
Thanks, Peter.
couple of
Can I just
things
say,
I'd like to
Peter?
work through with
Yeah,
Peter
me
here.
too, actually, Al. You start.
I think he might be implying that you had an anecdote that was going to be so high level that it would match my drive into Leeds a night early for my preview anecdote.
Well, that was
I mean,
optimism in
absurd.
in the extreme.
And also, Peter, the phrase is correct me if I'm wrong, correct me if I'm right doesn't make sense. Correct me if I'm right.
Okay.
I think
would
correct me
like-
if I'm right means I'm not even considering the fact that it's probably
Okay.
wrong.
Two things. I like the way Al's repeated use of Peter
Yes,
in a very
Peter.
passag way when someone repeatedly uses your name. So, Peter, I would just like to say, Peter, I think that is the most accurate thing I've ever read in my life. Okay?
Poor man never seems to get a word in. Frank, your thoughts?
Well,
That's enough
I
from
mean,
Frank.
I actually had loads to say about Peter's email. I didn't get a chance. Come on. Peter's entitled to his opinion, for goodness sake.
Come on, we're all Peter's friends here.
Yeah.
So, I want to talk about the moon
Oh,
landings.
you always do.
For a change. No change there then.
It's the anniversary. It's the anniversary of the moon landings.
50 years.
Brilliant.
And
50 years ago, I lay with my whippet on the sofa. The lunar module was on the surface, and we lay there on,
what about the moon landings?
and waiting for them to come out.
Yeah.
And as you know, I fell asleep. I think the whippet did as well. And when I woke up, not only had they walked on the moon, but they'd gone back in.
Oh,
So, but
So you
still,
missed-
so exciting.
You missed that big moment, not unlike my friend Jane, who went to the loo in a Bond film and came back and said, has anything happened? And I said, yes. He said, the name's Bond, James Bond. She missed that entire opening sequence.
You can always catch that again, though.
He says that again.
Yeah. Whereas,
But yeah, there was a character called James Burke,
I remember him well. He used to be
Do
on
you?
Blue Peter a lot, talking about science and stuff.
contemporary of Patrick Moore's, I believe.
In the days when people who were interested in science were despised.
There were.
You know, they had glasses on. At school, they were like the kids who no one liked.
Right.
Now, I think the people who are into science look like burlesque dancers. You know,
Right.
Well,
times have changed.
You're bang on, because when the Sun were reporting this story, they were referring to him as Chief Geek and the bespectacled scientist. I like that the Sun are very late to the party with the science is cool movement.
Yeah.
They're still sticking with their old school approach to science, that they wear glasses and carry briefcases.
Yes. But he was whenever there was any science on anywhere on the BBC, particularly of the astronomical nature, James Burke would appear.
Well, he, along with
Check jacket often.
he has been speaking about how there was a near disaster in the coverage. Did you hear about this?
This was was the near disaster him getting sacked.
And
He didn't get sacked.
Well,
No,
that
but-
was the near
but
But he
disaster.
got threatened with it because he said, I've got a feeling they're going to do the walk earlier than
Because
they're
how
meant
about
to.
follow the bear?
The walk is the walk of life. What a tune! So he guessed they're gonna go out and walk because they're actually scheduled to land on the moon and then sleep. But obviously they were never going to
Not
do
sleep
that.
on the moon, we should say.
No, they were going to, weren't
That'd
they?
be
They were gonna
great.
Sleep in
If
the
they literally slept out on the powdery moon.
Like
camping.
festivals
No,
with a yurt.
just find the smallest crater that would operate as a pillow. You could use the crater for your night bowl, as it were.
Oh yeah.
You see, it
The
looks
trouble
so
is if-
lovely and soft, the moon. Do you think it's hard, that rock?
Well, they brought back hard rock, but it's dusty, isn't it? It's very powdery, the moon.
Oh, nice.
I love the idea as well of getting up to urinate and it just going up into the sky.
You like
That's
that?
one of my great dreams. I mean, I've never even met the ceiling, and God knows
You're
I've
not
tried.
Martin Luther King, are you?
No, but what about if I had gathered a load of people and then told them that dream?
You did.
And then ended with a big choir comes on and sings Reach for the Sky.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
Can I just say we've had our first moon landing denier text in. Do you actually believe that moon landing? I'm going to change a word there. Nonsense. Ridiculous. Do some research, people. It's tripe. Panorama definitively proved it was tripe in the 70s.
I've had enough of this tripe. Remember that when there was a point where Alex Higgins, a snooker player, he got so angry. I mean, I think he was drunk at a thing and he got banned for something. And he was so angry, he announced his retirement from snooker.
Oh.
And he did a public thing and he said, I just want to say I've had enough of this tripe. And then he said, and let's say sorry to people in the north of England because I know they love tripe and I love tripe. And I thought, no, none of them thought you were actually condemning tripe. They recognised that it was a wordplay. No, I'm so sorry because I love tripe as well. So,
Yes, there
obviously
were
a lot
quite
of
a lot.
people think it isn't true. And
Which must make the 50-year anniversary seem like real salt in the wound, like
Well, I
we're
suppose-
celebrating the anniversary of the conspiracy.
Yeah.
if I was a moon landing denier, I would be delighted to celebrate 50 years of them not landing on the moon because it'd be such a significant moment.
Yeah.
One of the, it'd be like you'd celebrate one of the great hoaxes of all time.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
you can join in with that.
I was just, again, off air in one of our off-air chats. Oases.
Yeah.
Because no one's sulking.
I was, although Peter has sent us a lovely message, actually, thank you, Peter. It's
Peter?
Peter again. I would just like to say, Frank, and then he offers praise, even with your two sidekicks.
Oh, that's.
He says he has to go now as the wife is shouting at me about taking her shopping.
Oh, a little snapshot into Peter's
What a
life
Frank
there.
Spencer set up. So thank you, Peter. I always loved you. Yes, I think there was a film I mentioned to Al called Capricorn 1, which some of our older listeners may be familiar with. Mm-hmm. And it was a conspiracy theory, essentially, wasn't it?
Well, it was about a
Mars.
faked Mars landing.
Yes.
Oh, sounds good.
Yes, but I think this is what inspired all this moon conspiracy thing, you see, because it wasn't too many years after that.
Well, the king of it is Bart Sibrel, is he? He was the guy who confronted... he used to confront astronauts with a Bible and say,
Right.
swear
Was that
on
his job?
swear on the Bible.
I'd like that job.
There's footage on, many of you will seen on the internet, is he confronted Buzz Aldrin, but he
Seen it.
sort of then got into calling him a liar and
To
all
his
that.
face.
Yeah, too. And Buzz Aldrin hits him in the face.
We
Yeah.
need to talk about Buzz.
Can I say that Absolute Radio does not condone street violence?
No. Nor does it condone calling Buzz Aldrin a liar to his face.
No,
I
that's
don't
harsh,
think. I haven't read
harsh.
the manual, but
Although some terrible sartorial choices, but we'll get on to that.
Well, I'll tell you what, he loves a jacket badge. But
He
if
loves
you
the
work for
jacket badge.
NASA,
And also, Frank, he loves the Stars and Stripes tie.
can I say one more thing about
too.
the
James
moon
Burke.
landing denying thing?
mm-hmm.
I mean, I have to say, if it came out that it was, if it was definitely proven that it was made up, that would be more brilliant than men landing on the moon, in my opinion. I mean, what a story if it
Yeah.
absolutely came out. Because we've gone along all these years, they've charged so much money for their autographs. It would be brilliant.
Could you sue them?
Could I? What?
Could you sue them if, for example, I believe you've paid
You've
money?
paid up.
Well, I named my son after Buzz Aldrin. Could I sue him? Could I sue him for not landing on the moon?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So it would be an interesting.
I think my favourite, one
It
of my
would make
favourite.
Lance Armstrong's One Big Lie look like small beer, wouldn't it?
Never got over that.
I still haven't got over
He's
that.
so backed the wrong horse with that.
NASA was sued by a woman who. I'll tell you what. The one I think before, or maybe a couple of missions before the moon landing, before Apollo 11, they quoted Genesis. Not Phil Collins, the Bible.
Oh, yeah.
them and
And
the
a
Bible.
woman sued NASA for saying that was breaking the rule of the American Constitution, that you can't mix the state and religion.
Oh.
And when Buzz Aldrin was on the moon, I'll be quick. I'm getting pressure from the producer.
Okay.
I can't. That's someone else who doesn't let me get a word in that you forgot to mention, Peter. And anyway,
God's sake.
Buzz Aldrin took up wine and bread and did a communion. Took communion in the lunar module, but
That's why he likes him.
But they had
Yeah.
radio silence for that bit because they were being sued by this woman. And they didn't want to wind her up even more. So, people have taken them on in the past.
Okay.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
We were talking about James Burke, the BBC science correspondent, and this story broke. I mean, when I say the story broke, how long has the reporter been chasing that story?
Yeah.
He's like in a room,
Hashtag late review.
smoking, sending telegrams out to people. But he said the BBC were about to go off air, as you say, because in those days the TV shut down at midnight, or BBC One did. BBC Two continued sometimes until 1:30.
Did it?
Crazy
Yes, they had a
times.
remit they were allowed to, because I think the Postmaster General was in charge of TV broadcasting.
What happened to him?
Which,
He was everywhere in those days.
Yes.
he was a big figure. What happened? Is there still a Postmaster General, Frank?
Well, I don't know. Is there still a Witchfinder General?
Why was he getting his nose stuck into TV?
Yeah.
Mind your own beeswax. Keep an eye on the letters.
But they used to have a thing called Closed Down. A caption would come on that said Closed Down. And then they would often have a piece of music. In the earliest days, when I was a kid, they used to... Telly would stop about 11:30 at night, and
Yeah.
they would play the national anthem. That would be the last thing they play. And apparently, a lot of people used to stand
Yeah.
for it.
Well, I would.
Well,
And there was a thing called the epilogue.
not our Keith.
So it would end the day's broadcasting would end with the epilogue, and it would be like a Church of England vicar giving you a sort of thought about something.
Yes.
Right.
And then it'd be the national anthem.
Like a nighttime version of Thought for the Day.
Exactly.
Well, it was also
Thought for the night.
They were
Yeah.
only allowed, I believe, the Postmaster General. I think it was him. You could only
PMG.
you could only record. They only were allowed to do 7 hours of television a day or something, which is why
Right.
they had to close down. So
Like
he
a
might
long-distance lorry driver behind the wheel. with-
Exactly.
which is why
You've got
he
a
might.
tachometer out.
He was very strict about it, the Postmaster General. But what I like is there was, Patrick Moore was also involved in the coverage.
Yeah.
And I read something in this article saying, Patrick Moore was the only person to have ever met the first man to fly, Orville Wright. He met the Wright. He
met
interviewed
Orville Wright.
Orville Wright.
Wow.
As well as the first man in space, Frank, who was?
First man in space, Yuri Gagarin.
And the
And-
first man on the moon.
Yes. Neil
So
Armstrong,
he
obviously.
got the big three.
See, I read that, and they said it was he was the only person to meet all three of those, and I thought, well, we don't know that for sure, do we? Like, it could just be there might be some
Yeah, but
non-famous
Orville
person.
Wright
Just
is
coincidentally, like there could be a postman.
I
Very,
remember seeing a clip.
very
Orville
well
Wright.
travelled.
I saw a clip from an American, like a panel show when someone went on with a claim to fame, and the panel had to guess what they. And this very, very old man came on, and it was an old black and white panel show from the 50s or something. This
Right.
bloke came on, and they were all trying to guess what it was and all that. Turned out he was in the theatre the night Lincoln got shot. It's incredible.
Dark.
I remember thinking it was a bit strange that my dad had had Harold Lloyd on the
Yeah.
programme.
Well, exactly.
Lincoln getting shot. Did they ask him how was the play?
This is
I
like
hope they did.
this. I remember he had an eye patch, if I remember rightly, the bloke. It's like when my granny's story about being told they had to go into the school hall first thing in the morning, and the headmistress got on stage and said Queen Victoria's died. It's just amazing how close it all is.
Jonathan Ross's kids that, and they said, "Oh no, it must have been his great great grandmother." I said, "No, it was his grandmother."
My grandmother, Polly Stocking, was her name.
Frank Skinner,
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
There've been some interesting facts about these moon landings.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know they only had 19 seconds of fuel left. Is
Oh,
that a bit of a
man.
big mo thing for me not to have known?
No,
Because, I mean, that's my level
I didn't know that.
irresponsibility.
but I mean that is scary, isn't it? I was driving with my fuel light on for a big chunk of time last weekend, and I still feel like I've got
anxiety,
a
mate.
residual
It's not the
tension.
same, though, Al,
Yeah.
I don't
It's
think.
not the same. No, you're right. What I'm saying is it would be even more tense if you were on the way to the moon.
Well, I
Yeah, but
got,
they needed what you have pointed out to all of us, which is
What was that?
the little arrow. Absolute game changer.
Oh,
The
yeah.
petrol arrow, which shows you which side it's on.
Yeah, I never knew that either until someone texted it. It's good intel.
I did a show with Patrick Moore,
Worked with them all.
and he
Is
was
that with
on,
the Wright brothers?
and I yeah,
Frank's worked with them all.
and I said, it's disappointing that what's happened post the moon landings, because I remember being told that they'd have, because of being on the moon, we'd be able to predict earthquakes and stuff like that. And he said, "You're talking absolute rubbish."
You needed to be told, though, to be fair. It's tough love from Patrick.
Do you think he said that to Einstein, who I believe he also met? You're
But
talking
they-
absolute rubbish, Albert.
Maybe he didn't. Maybe Einstein towed the line, unlike Skinner over here.
Yeah, he was. I've got to say, he was a nasty piece of work.
Who more?
Yeah, God bless him. But
No, I
it
think
is
he was-
I think it's true. They were always all these big promises, and then
Lost it, a nasty piece of work. He's absolutely lost it.
Patrick Less, I call him.
Were he still here?
And the big, it seems, apparently the big advance that was made by all that billions of pounds worth of moon landing was camping technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the fabric and stuff was developed in the
Teflon, they always said, don't they? Non-stick pans.
Tin foil.
I think the 10 peg.
Why is it all tin foil? It looks so cheap. Why does it all look like Doctor Who? Rubbish.
Yeah,
Sorry, Frank.
it looks a bit London Marathon. You know that cloak they get.
Everything looks a bit put together and Blue Peter Garden, and it just feels a bit props department, like someone smoking with glasses, going, "Love, I've got these monsters for you."
Well, I was watching Space 1999 this week. Well, do you know that programme?
Yeah, I just haven't heard of anyone else of your age watching that.
Yeah, well, anyway, Martin Landau stars in it. And they've all got flares on the spaceship. And when it was made, they must have thought, well, they never questioned the fact that flares. They thought this is it now.
Yeah.
We've arrived at what trousers
These
are.
are forever.
Yeah,
all the other stuff's going to change.
They never, it's slightly tragic. They never questioned that they might go out of fashion.
Airplane collars.
Yeah, we've arrived at the trouser.
Frank Skinner. Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
So the actual anniversary was, I believe it was 9:30 on July the 16th. Unfortunately...
That was takeoff,
Was it? Yes. And Buzz Aldrin had arranged to meet Michael Collins. There was meant to be a sort of ceremonial do to celebrate this. And unfortunately, Buzz wasn't there. He didn't turn up because I think there was a private jet corporate.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Really?
Yes. And Michael Collins said a brilliant thing. He said something along the lines of, I feel very alone. I feel like I've been left alone.
Yeah, you think he'd be used to that.
He should be used to it. Anyway, but they did go...
Do you think Michael Collins charged waiting time?
Did you see, though, they both did make it to the Oval Office to meet...
The Donald?
The Donald.
Did they?
They met Rumpelstiltskin.
POTUS.
What I loved is Donald Trump did that thing he often does, which is he has guests in and he turns it into a random press conference where he answers questions about other things. He just starts ranting about other things.
Yeah.
So Buzz and Michael, who aren't young men, are standing there on the either side of his desk. And he's saying, let me tell you about Boris Johnson, that guy. And they're looking slightly bemused, like, but I thought we were the special guests. It's our big day. He's saying, I like Boris. The previous one has done a very poor job with Brexit. Very poor. But he is a different kind of guy. He's like me. I'm a different kind of guy. I like him. I can do business with him. And Michael Collins is leaning onto the desk thinking, I want to go. Then someone reminds him why we're here. And he says, oh, yes, we have some incredible space families. Great women, great men, great genes, these people. Great space family genes. Space families.
Oh, man.
Great
I love
genes.
his brackets. I love his, and he said, and I did say that, I know it upset a lot of people. Open brackets. Made a lot of people really liked it. A lot of people that really liked it. I mean, they really liked that a lot. Close brackets and on to the next thing. It's fab.
Yes. He introduced us to Buzz's wife as well.
Did he?
His new wife.
Yeah, she's how old do you think she is?
Well, he was with, I think, Lois for a long time, and I think he divorced her when he was like 82 or something.
Oh.
Didn't seem worth the bother. But I met her because I interviewed Buzz. The first chat show I ever did, I got Buzz on as a guest, and we thought they'd love to be in this old like Tudor hotel. We thought, being Americans, they'd love a bit of English history, and Lois, I think it was Lois, phoned up and said, can we get a new hotel? Like the floor creaks, and there's a lot of brown wood. Can we? And when we had to move them into like a Holiday Inn. But if you're looking at clips, I would check the moment when I think it's President Nixon was the president at the time, wasn't he?
Yes.
And he goes to meet them in the contamination box, which has got a small window. And they play the American national anthem, and they all stand up, and the window just frames their three crotches. For the, it's really. I played that to Buzz Aldrin, and
Can I just say
he
we
loved
won't
it.
be doing that as the postcard for our show? Okay.
Okay. They don't have the webcam anymore. You're all right. So look, thanks for listening to us. And if the good Lord spares us and the creeks don't rise, we'll be back again this time next week. Now get out.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.